Joining us this week for the Wednesday Bookmark is Joanne Schreuders. Joanne is a Christian author, speaker, widow, and retired homeschool mom of 10. We're going to talk this morning about her book, Doing It Well, Walking Through Cancer with Hope. Joanne, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
This book begins in the early days of COVID-19. It was around that time that your husband felt a bump on the outside of his upper right thigh. Pick up the story from there, Joanne. When did you first know that Jim had cancer?
Well, he like you said, he had this bump and he said, feel this. Do you think it's anything? And I said, I don't know. So we ended up going to the doctor, but that meant during COVID, it was a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
So the doctor thought she knew what it was, asked him to get steroids from the pharmacy, and she was going to inject them, but he had to come into the office for that. So when he walked into the office, she looked at it and she goes, "Oh, I know what that is. That's not what I thought it was." So she right away made arrangements to go to a cancer doctor in Toronto. And I at that point, like the word cancer, I'm trying to process, but apparently he didn't see it the same way I did. He was expecting to go to that doctor in Toronto and they were going to tell him, "Oh, the doctor didn't know, it's not that, it's something else." So it took him a while before, actually not till after he went to the Toronto doctor and they explained that he had the same cancer as Terry Fox. And on the way home from that drive, it was very quiet, and all of a sudden he turned to me and he said, "I have cancer."
Oh.
And it explained to me why I couldn't understand how he was handling it so well. But
right, yeah.
Then now it was something he was wrapping his head around, and I had already been working through that.
Yeah, and kind of on that theme, as I was reading the book, I was reflecting on the emotional roller coaster that is a cancer journey. How did you and Jim and really the whole family emotionally navigate the moments of good news and the moments of bad news throughout the whole fight against cancer?
It was an emotional roller coaster. A lot of times, Jim has a great sense of humor, or had a great sense of humor. So he kind of rallied through that, and he would do practical jokes and stuff to try to keep everybody up. And that was very helpful, but there were times when, even he couldn't do that it was sad, but we all struggled, but we relied on God and really put our faith into action and just trusting that God knew what was best for our family and what we went through. And everybody does that differently. And when you have 10 kids, they all do that differently.
Wow. In one of the chapters, God's Hands and Feet, you discuss the many, many people who reached out with prayers, with physical gifts, and all manner of encouragement. Talk more about the ways the church stepped up during a difficult time and what those various gestures meant to you and the family.
Okay. People brought gas cards so we could get back and forth to the hospital. Because we were a single income family and Jim couldn't work a lot of times. He tried to work. He wanted to work. Work he enjoyed. So that was something he really wanted to get back to. That would mean normal for him. And he wanted normal back. But the church really pulled in and made it easier that he could have those times off. Somebody gave us a restaurant gift card. So on the way home from the hospital, we could, stop at a restaurant and get food. There was grocery cards that we didn't have to worry about food that way. We had somebody else get us just cash money to use whatever. A hardware store gift card was given, and we used that to get a humidifier for Jim because the cancer was in his lungs and he had to keep them dry. We have wood stove heat, and so he had a humidifier beside him all the time to keep his lungs moist. So, I mean, those are things that we couldn't normally have probably afforded on his low income.
Yeah.
And that was huge. People brought even a breakfast at the very end of his life. We had people bring breakfast for, like, all of my kids were at home at that point. And there's a lot of people I don't remember cooking.
And all such practical and pragmatic stuff. I just love that so much. That's very encouraging.
Yeah.
Jim wondered aloud at one point, and this was such a poignant part of the book, if you would miss him when he was gone. And I think that your response to that comment was quite poignant. Tell us about the letter that you wrote Jim, and then you presented it to him, and why you recommend that others do the same.
I wrote a letter, and it was just listing things. Like, I just took 3 days and things that I noticed around, like, when he left his socks laying on the floor beside the laundry hamper, stuff like that. Or, the shaving cream left on the counter with the lid off and some dripping on the counter, just fun things like that. But also, the way he played with the grandkids, the way he just had humor for everything, how the whole room went at ease when he was there because of his humor. I was always the tough mom because I had to keep order with homeschooling, and he could come in and just poof, blow that all to smithereens because Dad was home. He was the fun parent. And so, I mean, what was our life going to look like without that? So, I wrote him those things. But in honest truth, those things that I wrote him in that letter didn't touch half of what at the end, what you miss.
You dig into a lot of practical matters in the book. We were talking about the pragmatism a few minutes ago, and I frankly don't see this type of stuff discussed in books very often. You talked about updating wills, pre-planning funerals, designing and writing memorials, and so on. What advice do you have for the rest of us on handling those sensitive end-of-life pragmatics well?
Yeah, that it's really important for those of us that are left behind because, I mean, people talk about the fog of grief, and that is a real thing. Like, you can't think straight. It's hard to explain. You just can't live. Like, people look at you and think, oh, you should be moving on now. It's been so long, and you can't. And to have those things done beforehand, I studied it, and I found out they actually ask 87 questions at the funeral home.
Wow.
And to do that while you're still trying to process that this loved one is gone, even though Jim and I had done a lot of it, like, they were asking me question after question, and I'm just like, whatever we decided, like, because I couldn't think straight anymore. And at that point, some funeral homes will get you to pay more for stuff. And you maybe didn't need that, and you'll regret it later. You need to do those things now and know what the other person wants. Like, there was things that I wish I had talked to Jim about. And even though we did talk about a lot, we had that opportunity. These people that don't have that opportunity because it's a quick death, they're left with wondering all the time what that person would have wanted. And I now actually I speak at I have a seminar on doing it well. It's called Securing Your Legacy. And I talk about all the many things that you can do to help your family plan today for when you're gone.
Last question, Joanne. This is a tough one, but if Jim were here with us right now in this conversation, what final thought might he want to leave our listeners with, do you think?
Trust in God, and He'll help you through anything. And have fun with life. Enjoy it. Enjoy every moment of your life. And that's how he lived. Just humor. And, it's a life here, but we have heaven for eternity. And that was his goal. And yeah, you do what you can here, but God has your life in his hand, not, we don't have it. We don't have any of that.
Doing it well, walking through cancer with hope. Joanne Schreuders, our guest this week for the Wednesday Bookmark. You're very well spoken. It was really a wonderful book, Joanne. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.